We all know how important it is to warm up properly before any activity. So before you get on your wakeboard and get a toe behind the boat, take a couple minutes and a kettlebell and give this warm up a shot. We all know how important it is to warm up before any physical activity. And as we get older, it becomes more critical. So when we're up at the cottage or we're doing some kind of recreation activity, it shouldn't be any different from any kind of organized sport. So today I'm going to show you a quick warm up using one kettlebell and how to kind of hit those primary movement patterns before you head out on your board and get a toe behind the boat.
To start off, we are going to work from the ground up. Since this is where we built our movement patterns from the ground, we're going to activate them from the ground. So we're starting with some anterior chain exercises. We're just doing some pike lifts, using a kettlebell to pull over, activating the abdominal muscles all the way up and through range of motion. When you think about when you're popping over the wake, performing any inverts, those lower abdominals and hip flexors really need to pull you around. Next, going into the lateral chain, we're doing some side plank reach unders. So activating the lateral sling or the lateral aspect of our bodies, connecting it with our hips, our core, and our shoulders is crucial, especially for spins and when we're hanging onto that rope. Those lats and those shoulder muscles really work hard, especially with the single arm work. Next, we're getting into the bridge. As soon as I can find my kettlebell here, oh, there it is. And just working on the posterior chain. So the kettlebell is being used as a resistance to help add resistance, get the glutes to fire all the way through full extension. And then next, we're going to single leg versions of this so that we now have a rotation control aspect for the posterior chain. You can use a band with this as well if you don't have a kettlebell. Now we're going to lock in some of that strength with a suspended position. So we went from a spine supported to now a spine suspended position, doing some shoulder touches, controlling rotation through the spine, stabilizing those shoulders with it as well. Moving down into some downward dog calf raises. I don't know about you, but I find when I land a little bit short or a little bit deep across the wake, my calves and Achilles can take a lot of force. So we want to make sure these are nice and prepped, as well as making sure the hamstrings and all the muscles on the backside are nice and mobile as well. So with these, perform 15, 20, 25 reps. Keep it relatively high, burn them out a little bit so you can really feel how they're working. Now we're going to start opening up the hips. So the core and spine is now taken care of. We're going to move into some hip mobility transitions. So that we're going to wiper, we're going to come up into our hip transitions. Some people call them shin boxes, whatever you want to do. And as we come up, so we're pressing, we're getting those rotators, and we're going to add a little bit of rotation through the trunk as the hips start to open up here. Now you'll notice with the back foot, I point the toes so I don't crank into my knee. As you gain control and confidence with this, we come up into our lunge position. So now we're loading up that front leg, rotating through the hip, eccentrically lowering back down, stretching and strengthening not just the outer glutes, but the deep hip muscles as well. And you can start getting creative with this. Add some reaches, some rotations. Spin that leg around, get creative as much as you'd like. Feel it out. Now we're up into the standing position. We're going into our goblet squats. Grab a kettlebell by the horns. Now, as you can see, I'm lifting it slightly up by my face. What this does is it activates the lower traps and the thoracic muscles to help stabilize not just the spine, but also the scapula as well. So we bang out 10 to 12 reps there. Moving into our kickstand, bent over one arm rows. We all know hanging onto that rope does take its toll onto the shoulders, elbows, and grip. So we want to make sure that everything is locked in on that backside so that we don't tweak or pull anything. And lastly, we're going to go into some ballistics using our kettlebell swing. So the kettlebell swing is going to lock in everything on the backside from shoulders, core, hips, hamstrings, and calves. Because really, this is where the performance happens. Everything's on the backside here. You can get a little creative, do a couple of little one-arm flips, and then finish off with some high reps with a two-handed swing to lock everything into place.
I hope you found this video helpful and informative. It only took less than 5 minutes to go through that complete routine. So the 5 minutes that you spend as a little bit of a warm up prior to doing something very complex and ballistic can save you a lot of time and money in rehab.